So near hurricane force winds are blowing outside. Suffocating smoke has filled the air with hot embers. The smell of smoke is heavy inside a 2-story senior living facility. Suddenly the power goes out. There's no backup generator, no lights, no elevator, and wheelchair-bound senior residents are stranded on the 2nd floor. There's 23 residents in the building, and the 4 employees who are hired to care for them have all gone. There's a bus in the parking lot large enough to evacuate all of the residents. The keys can't be found. Family members in the facility rush upstairs to save the stranded elders, dragging them down the dark staircases, hoisting them over their shoulders if necessary, getting all 23 residents into the lobby of the facility. Once there, they're desperate for help. They see a police car drive by, and 2 women in their 60s who are family members of residents run out the front door to flag down the police officer. As soon as they do, the door shuts and locks behind them. At this point in time, the building is on fire. Thankfully, they're able to flag down a police officer who calls for backup. Several vehicles arrive, and they're able to evacuate all 23 of the residents minutes before the entire building is consumed in flames. It's October 2017. At that point in time, the Tubbs fire was the most destructive fire in California history. It had spread from Calistoga to Santa Rosa, a distance of over 12 miles, in less than 3 hours. The facility had 60 total residents, many of them wheelchair-bound, most of them suffering from some form of dementia and unable to communicate. And Oakmont Senior Living, operating Villa Capri, had 4 people working that night to care for all 60 residents. The most senior of those employees had been there for 10 months, the other 3 for only a couple of months. A month and a half, or just over a month following the fire, KATHRYN STEBNER and her team of ANOUSH LANCASTER, KARMAN GUADAGNI, Craig Needham, Mike Balin, and KIRSTEN filed a lawsuit, and they move for preference. They've got 9 months to put together a case for 23 residents who had been abandoned during, at that point in time, the most destructive fire in California. So what is it about the facts of this case? Will they litigate the hell out of the thing? Overcoming, and we'll get into some details in just a second, everything you can possibly imagine. 150 trial witnesses are identified, and the case settles at 8 p.m. the night before the case is to go to trial. They literally accomplish everything you can possibly accomplish in civil litigation. They get financial recovery for their clients. They get an injunction to prohibit the dangerous practices of the company going forward. They provide evidence to the state of California to issue citations to the operators and pulls the licenses of the facility. And then the group drafts and works to seeing that Senate Bill 314, which was signed into law this June, was passed, that clarified existing law to ensure that abandonment was included within the enhanced remedies of elder abuse cases, to make sure that elderly people in homes weren't abandoned during fires or other disasters in the future. So why Street Fighter of the Year for this type of a case? Well, you've got to look at the criteria for the award. The first is, what was it about the skills or the demonstrated abilities of the attorney that sought to create a more just society, irrespective of personal gain or financial recovery? From day one, this case was about protecting lives and protecting the dignity of elderly people in senior living facilities. They were limited to damages. Their damages were very limited to the period of time of the evacuation. That's the period of loss. Maybe some personal effects that could have been evacuated more timely. They were limited by their clients. Demented people can't talk about the emotional distress or the fear that they were experiencing. The second criteria, what was it about the skill of the attorneys that created the entire result? I said earlier they litigated the hell out of the case, and boy did they. Motions to compel for every document. The governmental entities who were investigating, they hadn't completed their reports yet. They had to get all that information on their own. By the time they actually got discovery and started depositions, they had to complete 60 depositions in the course of just 1 month. They pulled the owner's deposition after agreeing to provide the owner of the facility, only to have it ordered by the court to be taken just 3 weeks before trial. Complete insanity. And they did it, they persevered, and again, accomplished everything you can possibly accomplish through civil litigation. The third factor are the obstacles. Evidentiary burdens were unbelievable. You didn't have public reports. You didn't have clients who could talk about what their injuries were. The second obstacles they had to overcome were the limited damages, right? What are the damages for a period of time that somebody wasn't evacuated from a facility? Possibly exacerbation of pre-existing injuries for a couple clients, and then their personal effects that weren't evacuated. So damages was a huge problem. You got a problem with a jury pool. In Santa Rosa, over 5,000 structures were destroyed and dozens of people were killed. How is that going to affect the presentation of your case for 23 people who were ultimately evacuated? And the fourth factor was this was the first trial for any of the fire cases. So they had to prove everything from the ground up, how the fire spread, how it happened. It was undisputed that the facility didn't cause the fire, right? The only case against the facility was what was that delay in evacuation. And the fifth criteria for the award is service to CAOC. KATHRYN STEBNER is on the leadership ladder of CAOC. All of the members of her team have been board members or actively involved in every aspect of the organization and supportive thereof. I reached out to Kim Valentine, who's a nationally respected elder abuse attorney. She had a lot of thoughts, including the fact that the damages issues would have scared most people away. But she said that KATHRYN wasn't scared away, and it motivated her more than everything was the fact that this could happen again. And from day one, it was about saving lives. And that's why I'm honored to present the case for them for their extraordinary and life-saving work in Minson versus Oakmont Senior Living.